Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 12 based on novel. So let's start. A dust storm spread within the forest. At this moment, the gazes of Lin Dong's group penetrated through the dust and focused on the enormous being a short distance in front. The enormous figure looked similar to the previous fire crystal demon apes. However, it was even larger and the color of its body was also deeper. Looking from a distance away, the figure appeared to be wearing a thick fiery red crystal armor. Moreover, its savage red eyes actually had a human-like cunningness and ferocity surging within it. At a glance, one could tell that it was quite intelligent. A fire crystal ape king her. Lin Dong's eyes also hardened because of Ying Huanhuan's soft exclamation. He could sense an extremely wild and violent energy fluctuation from its body. It was likely that its strength far exceeded those ordinary fire crystal demon apes. It is unexpected that even a fire crystal ape king has appeared. This fellow is fairly famous around the Blood Rock grounds. However, it usually trains deep within the mountains. Unexpectedly, it has actually barged into our place this time around. Yuan Fang's eyes were slightly cold as she looked at the enormous being with a stern aura and coldly said, "Huan, you alright?" At this moment, Jian Kun and Mo Ling rushed over to Lin Dong's side. After which, they looked at Ying Huan and asked, "I'm fine." Ying Huan glanced at Lin Dong. She hesitated a little and was just about to thank the latter for his help when she saw that Lin Dong was already waving his hand. After which, the latter stared at the fire crystal ape king a short distance away in an unblinking manner. His attitude caused Ying Huan to involuntarily grit her teeth. "All of you get lost now. I am the one who first discovered it." That fire crystal ape king in the forest was fanning his large hand in front of him in a violent manner. Wild wind scattered the dust. Its scarlet eyes stared at Lin Dong's group as it cried out explosively with a mouth filled with an evil aura. After training till this stage, the Fire Crystal Ape King clearly possessed an intellect that was not inferior to a human. If it was not because of its impure bloodline, it would have likely taken on a human form already. What a joke. This mineral vein belongs to our Dao sect. Since when is it your right to claim the items within here? Fire Crystal Ape King, if you know what is good for you, you should take your minions and return to the mountains. Otherwise, once the experts from our Dao sect hurry over, your years of bitter training would likely end up coming to naught. Yuan Fan laughed coldly. There is nothing I haven't been through all these years. Don't use the Dao sect name to scare me. Just you young fellows alone do not have the qualification to get me to obediently withdraw. Such arrogant words. Fury flashed across Ying Huan's large eyes before she said, "Big fellow, you merely have the strength of a 7 Yuan Nirvana stage expert. Therefore, you do not have the qualification to act so arrogantly in front of us." Although demonic beasts typically have powerful fighting strength, this Fire Crystal Ape King was merely at 7 Yuan Nirvana stage. However, from his appearance, he clearly possessed a fighting strength that was not inferior to an 8 Yuan Nirvana stage expert. Nonetheless, if they were to include Lin Dong, who possessed a fighting strength that far exceeded his appearance, their side would possess for 7 Yuan Nirvana stage experts. It was likely that the Fire Crystal Ape King would not gain much advantage if the four of them were to join forces. "Lin Dong, we must obtain that immortal Yuan ancient tree." Ying Huan's eyes looked towards Lin Dong after her words sounded. Her mouth moved slightly and a soft whisper was transmitted into Lin Dong's ears. "Is that thing very rare?" Lin Dong asked instead. He did not know much about this immortal Yuan ancient tree. "Yes. Moreover, it is extremely useful for our sect. This immortal Yuan ancient tree is able to automatically absorb the natural energy and agglomerate them into fruits. Those fruits are extremely beneficial for disciples like us." Lin Dong glanced at the 5 bright red fruits hanging on the black tree. He could indeed sense a powerful energy from within them. However, isn't this amount a little too insignificant for a super sect? The immortal Yuan ancient tree that we see in front of our eyes is merely a seedling. We do not know if there are any seeds within. If there is a seed, its value would soar by 100 times. Seed? Lindong's eyes became slightly focused. There is an immortal Yuan ancient tree in Yuan Gate. However, that ancient tree has already matured through their grooming. Currently, it is rumored to be tens of thousands of feet in size. Each time the ancient tree bears fruits, it will produce thousands of immortal Yuan fruits. The immortal Yuan tree is one of the key reasons why Yuan Gate disciples are far stronger than that of the other sects. Ying Huan bit her lips with the back of her teeth. Her pretty face turned unusually grave at this moment. Lindong's heart skipped a beat. A few thousand fruits together? If that was truly the case, it would be a little too frightening. However, in order to groom an immortal Yuan ancient tree till that extent, the amount of hard work and effort required would be terrifying as well. A single person is unlikely to be capable of doing so. If this immortal Yuan ancient tree really has a seed within, it is likely that the upper echelons would be shocked when this news is transmitted back to the sect, Lindong muttered to himself. In the next instant, he appeared to have thought of something as his expression suddenly became stern. Since this seed was so valuable, it would likely cause a commotion should news of this spread. Moreover, this Blood Rock Grounds was not a peaceful area. At that time, there would be an unknown number of people targeting this place. In fact, there might even be a few stealthy individuals who might try to secretly steal it. With such a valuable prize in sight, even the deterrence brought by Dao Sect's name will be significantly weakened. Based on them disciples alone, it might be very difficult to intimidate those lawless criminals in Blood Rock Grounds. Lindong turned his head and coincidentally saw Ying Huan staring at him. Her large black eyes were filled with a solemn expression. Originally, they thought that this was going to be an ordinary mission. Instead, it turned into such a troublesome one. Lindong's lips were curled. After which, his eyelid narrowed. Using a soft voice that only a few of them could hear, he softly said, "In that case, this Ape King, we must not let him escape." Lindong's voice was very soft, but the hearts of Ying Huan, Jian Kun, and the rest skipped a beat. From Former's words, they could hear an icy cool bone-piercing killing intent that was contained within it. All of them turned silent. They also knew that if the Fire Crystal Ape King escaped and ended up spreading news regarding this immortal Yuan ancient tree, it would wound up causing them a great deal of trouble. However, they were still unable to form a heartless killing intent instantly. After all, they did not go through what Lindong had experienced. Lindong is right, we cannot let him escape. Yuan Fang was clearly a lot more mature compared to Ying Huan and the other two. Her eyes immediately flickered before she nodded solemnly. Ying Huan also clenched her silver teeth after hearing Yuan Fang's words. She decisively said, "Jian Kun, Yuan Ling, the both of you will attack and block him at the front. Lindong, you will aid them from the side. Elder Sister Fang, arrange for the disciples to lock down this area." Although Ying Huan knew that Lindong could match up evenly with Jian Hao, she did not arrange for him to be at the front line. After all, this Fire Crystal Ape King was much stronger than Jian Hao. If he was not careful, he might end up being seriously wounded. Lindong did not say anything after hearing Ying Huan's arrangement. He merely looked towards Yuan Fang and softly said, "Elder Sister Fang, those Fire Crystal Demon Apes that have been put to sleep earlier, do not even let one of them off." Fang Yuan's heart was startled as she looked at Lindong's young and calm face. Clearly, she did not expect that Lindong's mind was so cautious and ruthless despite this tender age. She involuntarily sighed quietly. It was fortunate that he was a disciple of their Dao sect. Otherwise, it would really cause one to have difficulty sleeping and eating in peace. "Junior Lindong, it is fine for you to stop the Ape King from the side. Leave the rest to us." Jian Kun flickered his sleeve and laughed with great boldness. "Attack!" A soft cry was suddenly sounded from Ying Huan's mouth. At the next moment, mighty Yuan power suddenly erupted from Jian Kun's and Yuan Ling's body. Immediately, their bodies rushed out with a lightning-like speed. A sharp aura quickly covered the Fire Crystal Ape King a short distance away. Just when Jian Kun and Yuan Ling attacked, Ying Huan leaped and her lovely body landed on a large tree. Immediately, she waved her hands and an emerald-like green zither appeared. After which, a wave that caused Lindong to be surprised slowly spread from the zither. A young lady wearing a green blouse and white pants was seated cross-legged on a large tree. An emerald-like zither was placed gently on her knees. Her snow-white jade-like hands extended before they gently landed on the zither strings. The zither strings moved slightly and the space surrounding Ying Huan appeared to be distorted. At this moment, her clear eyes were focused on the zither in front of her and she seemed to have entered an extremely focused state. An extremely shocking ripple spread from the zither in front of her. Lindong was similarly a little shocked as he stared at Ying Huan, who was emitting a shocking ripple from within her body. Immediately, his eyes fell onto her emerald zither. His eyes shrunk immediately. Soul treasure her. Based on the fluctuations given off, the zither in Ying Huan's hands should be an extremely powerful soul treasure. Moreover, that fluctuation was even more powerful than his black dragon sky-roaring seal. It was likely that it could be considered to be at the upper tier amongst heavenly soul treasures. It is likely that this girl has quite a significant background, this thought flashed within Lindong's heart. Such a high-grade heavenly soul treasure was no ordinary object. If it was sold at an auction house, it would be worth tens of millions of nirvana pills. Furthermore, most ordinary disciples were unable to fork out such a vast sum. Lindong was not aware of Ying Huan's background. All he knew was that her elder sister was the big senior sister in Sky Hall and was the most outstanding younger generation member. From the looks of it now, the background of these two sisters' Dao sect was definitely not a simple one. Boom! Jian Kuan and Yuan Ling rushed out while this thought lingered within Lindong's heart. Powerful Yuan power erupted and directly covered the Fire Crystal 8 King. You wish to attack? You are seeking death. A ferocious killing intent flashed across the scarlet eyes of the Fire Crystal 8 King when he saw this scene. However, he did not show any signs of pulling back in the face of a combined attack by the Jian Kuan duo. Instead, he took a step forward before monstrous evil aura surged. His large hand, which was covered by fire-red crystals, slammed violently towards the Jian Kuan duo while accompanied by an evil wind. Boom! The unusually wild and violent palm wind from the three of them directly clashed in midair in a rampant manner. A loud sound immediately appeared. After which, a shocking energy storm instantly swept apart. That wind directly forced the Jian Kuan duo back by over a dozen steps. In contrast, that Fire Crystal 8 King merely took 2 steps back before stabilizing his body. The powerful fighting abilities of a demonic beast was completely revealed at this moment. You actually dare to come and mess with this king with such little ability? You really don't know your limits. The Fire Crystal 8 King laughed out loud after forcing back Jian Kuan duo with one punch. His laughter was filled with disdain and ridicule. However, after his loud laughter had just sounded out, a melodious zither sound suddenly appeared. After which, numerous jade-green sonic waves spread rapidly and swiftly engulfed the Fire Crystal 8 King. What nonsense is this? The scarlet eyes of the Fire Crystal 8 King flashed. His punch directly smashed at the jade-green sonic wave that spread apart. After which, he heard a cracking sound before the sonic waves were directly shattered by him. How useful! That Fire Crystal 8 King parted his lips and laughed loudly after seeing that the sonic waves were unable to even withstand one punch. However, his cold laughter had yet to fully form when he suddenly stiffened. This was because he discovered that those shattered sonic waves did not disappear. Instead, they stuck to his body like maggots in a bone. Finally, they swiftly penetrated his body. After these jade-green light penetrated his body, the Fire Crystal 8 King's eyes immediately changed drastically. This was because he sensed that his body was emitting a slight numb sensation wherever the jade-green light passed. Even his surging energy became a little sluggish. Little girl, you are seeking death. At this moment, the Fire Crystal 8 King finally became aware of just how powerful these sonic waves were. He immediately roared furiously. His scarlet eyes looked towards the young lady wearing a white blouse and green pants before his large foot stomped on the ground. Immediately, he transformed into a fiery red figure and rushed towards Ying Huan together with a monstrous and fearsome aura. Boom! Ying Huan's eyes paused on the zither. However, she was clearly able to sense the violent wind that had suddenly arrived. Immediately, her delicate fingers swept past her zither strings. Bright jade-green sonic waves rushed out from her zither in a lightning-like fashion. After which, they actually transformed into monstrous jade-green arrows that violently rained down on the Fire Crystal Ape King. Jade-green arrows rained down on the Fire Crystal Ape King's body. Those glowing arrows were extremely sharp. Even though the Fire Crystal Ape King had extremely powerful defenses, it was still able to feel waves of piercing pain. Moreover, those glowing arrows did not disappear after they struck him. Instead, they transformed into jade-green liquid that stuck on his body and continued to invade his body. Raw? That Fire Crystal Ape King clearly became furious because of Ying Huan tactics. The scarlet color within his eyes brightened. Monstrous red light suddenly swept out from within his body and it actually forcefully shattered the green liquid around his body. After which, his enormous palm directly blasted at Ying Huan. Ying Huan lifted her pupils slightly. She looked at the Fire Crystal Ape King's fist, which was being violently thrown over. However, she did not look like she was going to dodge it. An enormous black metal seal suddenly whistled out at this moment. It expanded with the wind while a dragon roar resounded over the place. A black dragon spirit whizzed out from the metal seal before its enormous dragon claws collided violently with the Fire Crystal Ape King's huge fists. Bang! Wild and violent wind swept apart and the surrounding large trees were all directly blasted into powder at this moment. However, the Fire Crystal Ape King's attack was successfully blocked. You damn brat! The Fire Crystal Ape King furiously stared at the enormous metal seal that was suspended in the mid-air. He could see Lin Dong lowering his head and staring at him with calm eyes. This lady has kindly played some zither music for you. Foolish fellow, you truly lack class. Lin Dong teasingly said. Ying Huan involuntarily laughed when she heard Lin Dong's words. This fellow was truly intending to piss off that Fire Crystal Ape King until it turned crazy. I will rip you into pieces. That Fire Crystal Ape King indeed became quite furious because of Lin Dong's words. Murderous intent surged within his scarlet eyes. However, he was just about to attack when two unusually strong wind rushed over from behind. They were the Jianquan duo, who had tailed behind closely. That Fire Crystal Ape King clearly did not dare to slight the Jianquan duo. Moreover, he was currently being disrupted by the zither sound and his fighting strength had declined. Immediately, he could only forcefully turn around and engage with the Jianquan duo again. Lin Dong looked at the unusually fierce and violent battle from high above. He waved his hand before the enormous black dragon that lingered around his body rushed forth. After which, it wrapped Ying Huan within it. He could tell that the latter's zither sound seemed to possess the ability to suppress the Fire Crystal Ape King's strength. With the help of the zither sound, it would be much easier to deal with the Ape King. Hence, Ying Huan's zither sound was quite important in this battle and it was necessary to protect her well. Ying Huan's eyes glanced at Lin Dong when the dragon spirit whizzed over. Immediately, the speed at which she played the zither stealthily increased. Numerous jade-green sonic waves spread apart in the midair and continuously entangled the Fire Crystal Ape King, who was fighting intensely with the Jianquan duo. While the Jianquan duo was engaging in an intense battle with the Ape King, Yuan Fang also led some disciples and swiftly withdrew. After which, those Fire Crystal Demon apes that Ying Huan had put to sleep earlier were all finished off one after another. Boom boom. A fierce and violent battle erupted crazily within the deep parts of the forest. However, with the flow of time, that Fire Crystal Demon ape began to show signs of tiring. This was due to the corrosive effect of Ying Huan's zither sonic waves. Otherwise, just the Jianquan duo alone would likely find it very difficult to fight with the Fire Crystal Ape King. That big fellow is going to tire out soon. Ying Huan's eyes were focused on the battleground. A joyful expression also flashed across her eyes while her movements involuntarily became a little slower. Do not slow down the zither music. Lin Dong was the closest to Ying Huan. He was also the first to discover the zither music slowing down. His expression immediately changed as he cried out in a deep voice. Ying Huan was a little startled upon hearing Lin Dong's voice. She was just about to immediately increase her speed when the Fire Crystal Ape King below roared towards the sky. His loud roar blocked some of the zither music, which had slowed down. Bang! The Fire Crystal Ape King's aura suddenly soared when the zither music was blocked. A punch forcefully pushed back the Jiang Kuan duo. Immediately, he stomped on the ground and directly fled towards the sky. Be careful, he is intending to flee. Ying Huan's expression changed as she hurriedly cried out. Promptly, she tried to play her zither in order to stop the Fire Crystal Ape King. Roar roar! However, that Fire Crystal Ape King had wised up this time around. Numerous deafening roars that contained powerful energy wildly spread apart and blocked Ying Huan's zither music. Damn it! Ying Huan immediately clenched her teeth when she saw this. A cold glint flashed across her clear eyes. However, just when she was about to use some technique, Lin Dong, who had observed all of these while standing on the metal seal, suddenly rushed out explosively. Lin Dong's speed was extremely quick. Within a flash, he had already appeared in front of the Fire Crystal Ape King. A 5-yuan Nirvana stage trash also dares to block this king? You really are seeking death. The Fire Crystal Ape King immediately laughed furiously when he saw Lin Dong appearing in front of him. His enormous fist carried a monstrous wind as he smashed violently towards Lin Dong. Lin Dong, be careful. Ying Huan and the rest below were immediately startled when they saw this scene. They clearly understood just how wild and violent the Fire Crystal Ape King's attack was. Bang! The enormous fist was swiftly magnified within Lin Dong's eyes. His expression was still like an old well without ripples. A grey line was formed between his eyebrows in a lightning-like fashion. After which, it swiftly spread apart. The monstrous, evil and fearsome grey eye once again appeared. Desolate demon eye? Ying Huan and the rest also saw the demonic eye between Lin Dong's eyebrows. After which, their expressions suddenly turned solemn. A grey demon eye appeared between Lin Dong's eyebrows as a shocking evil aura unfurled from it. Without skipping a beat, a grey light beam filled with an extremely frightening destructive force suddenly exploded from the demon eye. The light beam distorted space itself as it shot out, causing the fearsome-looking Fire Crystal Ape King's expression to change drastically as a rich sense of danger seeped out from his heart. Roar! A violent roar was suddenly released from the Fire Crystal Ape King's mouth. Resplendent red light poured out from his body, swiftly gathering together to form fiery red crystals which completely wrapped around him. When sunlight shone on these fiery red crystals, they looked as solid as diamonds and gave off a powerful and frightening defensive power. However, that grey light beam did not slow down at all. Instead, it directly penetrated through the empty space. In the next moment, it collided heavily on that fire-red crystal body. A slight hissing sound was continuously emitted the moment the collision occurred. After which, the pair of scarlet eyes under the crystal body suddenly shrunk, before shock gushed into its eyes. That was because it realized that on every spot on its crystal body touched by the grey light beam, numerous cracked lines had swiftly formed. The rate at which the cracked lines spread was extremely swift. In an instant, it had already spread over its entire crystal body. Break! The grey chi within Lin Dong's eyes surged before an icy bone-chilling word was softly emitted from his mouth. Boom! After he spoke, that fire-red crystal body was completely blasted apart. Crystal fragments permeated the air. That grey light beam flashed past in a straight line. Finally, it penetrated the head of the Fire Crystal Ape King in a lightning-like manner to its bewilderment. The grey light directly penetrated the head of the Fire Crystal Ape King. A trace of blood was left behind. Finally, the light shot into the distance and disappeared. A bloody hole appeared on the forehead of the Fire Crystal Ape King. However, that Fire Crystal Ape King did not die immediately after suffering such a severe wound. Instead, its expression suddenly became extremely hideous and ferocious. Its body staggered back by over a dozen oversteps while the aura around its body quickly weakened. It is actually still alive? Ying Huan and the others were shocked when they saw that the Fire Crystal Ape King was still alive. This demonic beast was truly hardy. Bang! Lin Dong's expression was calm as he observed the Fire Crystal Ape King, whose face was covered with blood. He clenched his fist before his black metal seal whizzed over. It soared with the wind, appearing like a metal mountain as it carried a frightening strength and violently smashed onto the Fire Crystal Ape King's body. Bang! A loud sound appeared in the sky. The Fire Crystal Ape King's enormous body was immediately smashed by the large metal seal until it collapsed. Finally, it slammed heavily onto the ground. That great force shook the entire land. The land collapsed. That black metal seal was just like a mountain and it squashed the Fire Crystal Ape King. Numerous large cracked lines ended up being created on the surrounding land. In the sky, Lin Dong looked at the Fire Crystal Ape King, which was squashed by his black metal seal. A cold tinge flashed across his eyes, before both of his hands directly moved with a lightning-like speed. Finally, they transformed into two icy cold and ferocious green dragon arms. Lin Dong's body emitted a swoosh sound before he appeared on the black seal. After clenching both of his fists, he violently slammed his fists on the black metal seal. A clear metallic sound containing an incomparably wild and violent strength sounded out from the metal seal. Standing beside him, Ying Huan was a little stunned when she saw that the black mountain-like seal was actually directly smashed into the ground by Lin Dong. What a violent fellow! Jian Kuan swallowed a mouthful of saliva while his entire body turned cold. Lin Dong did not attack previously, but who would have thought that he had merely chosen not to? When he attacked, however, he was actually this vicious. After his attack, it was likely that the Fire Crystal Ape King would definitely die regardless of how great its life force was. Lin Dong gradually ceased swinging his large hands while Ying Huan and the rest stared at him as if he was a monster. His body shook and the green dragon arm swiftly disappeared. After which, he looked at everyone and rubbed his numb fists as though nothing had happened before he said, "If you want to finish off a demonic beast, you should prevent it from having the opportunity to go all out. Otherwise, we will not be able to stop it if it wants to flee." There was still fresh blood continuously seeping out from under the metal seal at this moment. Lin Dong stood on top of the metal seal. His youthful face, which was of the same age as the rest, caused Jian Kuan and the rest to feel a chill within their hearts. They understood that if it were them, they would definitely not have such resolution. That fellow should be dead right. Yuan Ling laughed dryly and asked. Lin Dong smiled. He waved his hand and the black metal seal flew away. Finally, it transformed into a black light and rushed into Lin Dong's palm. Following the disappearance of the metal seal, a rich bloody scent immediately spread over the place. Ying Huan sniffed this smell and her small face became a little pale. She clearly did not have the courage to walk over and take a look at the bloody mess below. She immediately waved her hand before the soil on the ground moved and filled up the enormous pit. After burying that blooded body, Ying Huan finally hugged her emerald zither and drifted down from a tall tree. She flipped her palm and kept her zither. Desolate Demon Eye is very powerful indeed. You must be quite abnormal to be able to successfully learn it. Ying Huan glanced at Lin Dong. If it was not because Lin Dong had used the Desolate Demon Eye and seriously wounded the Fire Crystal Ape King, his subsequent vicious attacks would definitely not be of no use. Jian Kuan and Yuan Ling by the side also glanced at Lin Dong with some fear in their eyes. In fact, their eyes no longer possessed even a trace of pride from before. Upon witnessing Lin Dong's true strength and his vicious methods, they no longer dared to treat him like a newbie. Lin Dong smiled. Desolate Demon Eye would greatly erode one's eyes each time it was used. By paying such a price, how could the strength obtained be weak? Of course, this erosion clearly did not pose any threat to Lin Dong, who had the mysterious stone talisman guarding his body. While Lin Dong and the others were chatting, a hurried rushing wind sound was being transmitted from the forest. Promptly, they saw Yuan Fang lead over a dozen disciples and swiftly rush over. Her tensed expression relaxed a little after seeing that Lin Dong's group was well. "Where is the Fire Crystal Ape King?" Yuan Fang landed on the ground, swept her eyes around and asked in a stunned manner. Jian Kuan stomped his foot on the ground. Yuan Fang's eyes looked over before seeing the land that had been dyed red by fresh blood and the large pit on the ground. Immediately, her expression changed slightly as she exclaimed, "Have you finished it off?" It is all thanks to junior brother Lin Dong's desolate demon eye." Yuan Ling laughed. "Desolate demon eye?" Yuan Fang and some of the disciples beside her had a change in their expressions upon hearing these words. Being disciples of Dao sect, they naturally heard of this mysterious martial arts within Desolate Hall. However, they had not expected that Lin Dong was actually able to successfully master it. If it was not because Senior Jiang Kuan and the rest wore down the Fire Crystal Ape King, I would not have the opportunity to attack. Lin Dong smiled and shook his head. He had no intention of taking all the credit. "Elder Sister Fang, what about the other demonic apes?" Ying Huan looked towards Yuan Fang and inquired. "They have all been finished off." Yuan Fang nodded slightly. After which, her eyes were a little complicated as she looked towards the immortal Yuan ancient tree a short distance away. If this news were to spread, it was likely that the entire Blood Rock grounds would erupt in an uproar. Compared to the seed of an immortal Yuan ancient tree, this entire mine vein was hardly worth mentioning. Everyone began to turn towards the black ancient tree that had broken free from the ground. Their fiery hot eyes were filled with seriousness. Originally, it was just an ordinary mission. However, it was likely going to become extremely complicated because of this. "How can we know whether this seedling will have a seed?" Lin Dong glanced towards Ying Huan and asked. "We'll have to wait till its fruits fall. If it really possesses a seed, the seed will naturally appear." Ying Huan whispered. "Based on the energy fluctuations given off by the fruits, they will likely fall in less than 5 days. 5 days, huh?" Lin Dong curled his mouth and nodded slightly. "Do we need to bring all the disciples over?" Yuan Fang asked. "That will attract far too much attention." Lin Dong shook his head gently. He spoke in a deep voice, "We should look relaxed but stay vigilant secretly. Try not to attract attention. All we need to do is to act normally." If the Blood Rock grounds was as chaotic as Ying Huan had described, a large-scale operation would only end up attracting the attention of others. Should news of the immortal Yuan ancient tree spread, they would likely end up in a truly dire situation. Yuan Fang nodded. Although Lin Dong lacked the authority, his suggestions were calculated and prudent. As such, they had no reason to object to what he said. "In that case, we will wait quietly for 5 days." Ying Huan's eyes turned towards the immortal Yuan ancient tree while she slowly clenched her fists. For some unknown reason, she felt like this mission would become extremely troublesome. This video will end here.